Welcome, everyone, as you're starting to flow into today's CV and caffeine, why each piece of the CV is relevant. We have with us today Katie Goldstein, who is from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, who's going to help facilitate our session today. And then we've got three outstanding career visioning instructors, Steve, Mark, and Teri. And I'm going to turn it over to each of them to give you a little bit of their background, and then we will start our discussion. Steve, I'll throw it over to you.
All right, sounds good. I've been in real estate now for 47 years. Been with Keller Williams since 97. And so I'm in Phoenix, Arizona, had a real estate team, and I'm an investor in multiple Keller Williams market centers. I have been an OP. I'm not an OP now, but been in leadership at Keller Williams for I don't know, many years.
And I'm Mark Olesh. I'm in South Florida as the regional director. I started here as an agent just about a mile from here, became an ALC member, then became a team leader in a market center in Clearwater, then became a master faculty member and the OP of KW Fort Myers, and ultimately the regional director. So it's been a fun ride, and I've used career visioning in every one of those roles.
Yeah, actually, I forgot to say that I'm part of the master faculty, which I guess goes without saying. And I'm also on the board of directors for KW Cares.
I'm Teri Brenkus in Las Vegas and been in real estate over 30 years. Been with KW since 1998 and run a mega team, closing about 300 properties a year, and an OP of 4 market centers in Las Vegas.
Awesome.
Wow.
So let me just start with, if I can, in this conversation, I'm going to tell a story about why I even got involved in career visioning. And so I was recruited into Keller Williams in 1997. I had the number 4 top producing team in the Phoenix area. And so hence I was a target. We went across the stage in 1999, it being the number 2 team in Keller Williams. And when we came back from family reunion, where we went across the stage, got a hug from Mo Anderson and Gary Keller and all of that, my team said, "This is really awesome. I want to build my own team." And so everybody left except the ones that I had on payroll. And I was whining to Gary about it. And I said, took me 20 years to make this happen in the first place. And now I got to rebuild it. And so Gary said to me, "What do you need to learn?" And I said, "Well, I guess I got to learn right now. It took me 20 years. And he goes, "So what do you need to learn?" And obviously I said career visioning is what I needed. We call it recruit select at the time. And so he said, you need to teach it. And I told him all the reasons why I couldn't teach. And, I can't stand up in front of people and talk. And I'm giving him all of the excuses. And he said, "So what do you need to learn?" So it sounded like a script. Anyway, so he put me in front of, there was over 250 people. And at that time, the course was 3 days long in Houston, Texas. And teaching that course, him forcing me to teach that course, quite frankly, in order to rebuild my business, got me deeply involved in career visioning to where I've taught it now for many years.
It's an awesome story. And Steve, do you have any plans to be teaching career visioning coming up?
I teach it in my market center. I don't have, I'm not booked to be teaching it anywhere.
Okay. I know at KW Talent, we get a lot of people asking, where can I attend career visioning? So we always like to poll our guests on this session so that we can drop that in the link when we send out the recording to everyone.
November 6th, we'll be in Wellington.
They need to go. You need to go way more than one time. You really
Oh,
need
absolutely.
to make it a part of your life.
Yeah, I was working 80 hours a week when I joined KW, making about $1 million GCI, and coming into Gary's world and learning career visioning and realizing I just had a whole bunch of helpers that I was trying to manage instead of lead. And after career visioning, about, I don't know, 18 months or so later, I went from working 80 to working 20 hours a week and tripling my income. So it definitely impacted my life at a high level.
Teri,
Yeah,
tell us more about that. What part were you able to leverage? What were you able to leverage because of career visioning?
Well, I was going wide instead of deep, meaning I would just hire more people to help me instead of working through one individual or two individuals that reported to me and teaching them how to lead others. So having your staff go to career visioning makes a huge difference. Right now we have a gentleman, my son actually, who is leading the ISA department, and he's hiring people and he's teaching classes, and he spoke yesterday at the team meeting, and it just changes your world to learn how to develop leaders and give them the responsibility and the room to make a mistake and trust them to be able to figure it out and learn through failing, because that's how we all learn, is basically you fail and then you learn, right, Steve? It's like, what do you need to learn? And it was really difficult for me not to be, I guess, so controlling. Not that I've learned how to not be controlling and not give them the answer. So being the smartest person in the room is not always the best position. You want people smarter than you. And I think the way they become smarter is from failing and learning and getting back up and allowing them to maybe try something that you don't agree with. It may work, it may not, but giving them that space to learn and teaching them how to think, I think is the biggest part of CV for me, is how do you teach people how to think?
You know, can I comment on that? Because the process that we take somebody through, if we do career visioning correctly, the process that we take them through, first of all, it always feels like it takes too much time. But if you want somebody smarter than you in the room, it's the process that makes that happen. It's the process where you get to know them, they get to know you, but you're taking them through a process that they've never been through before. And if they have been through it before, they know if you skipped parts.
Yeah, and what I've found, Steve, is if people don't like the process and they don't want to go through it with you, they're typically probably not a match.
Yeah, that's
part of
right.
who we are. But, you know, we're a company of systems and models. I was thinking as you guys were talking, I got introduced to CV when I took over the Clearwater Market Center as a team leader. I'd been an agent and captain, gotten onto the ALC my first year, and then I took the team leader role. And the first thing that happened a couple weeks in is the front desk quit. So I picked up the phone and called the OP, who is Nikki Ubaldini, and I said, "Hey, Nikki, the front desk quit. You got to hire us a new front desk." And she said, "Oh, no, that's your job." I said, "Wait a minute. I thought I got in this to recruit the agents and teach them how to sell." She goes, No, you do it all. You hire the front desk too." I said, "I have no idea how to do that. What am I supposed to do? That's my wife is in human resources. I'm not a human resources guy." Well, what I found out is there is a system for it, right? And it reminded me of a story when I was in 7th grade of my high school basketball coach teaching us all how to shoot a ball, right? That you catch the ball, you square up to the basket, you have your eye on the target, you bend your knees, you rise up, you follow through, you should have a duck's head at the end. He said, if you don't shoot the ball that way, you'll never play for me. And we thought that he was doing it, you know, to tell us exactly what to do. And when we got into high school and a kid came in with a horrible shot and scored 38 points against us, we said, "Hey, you said that we'd never play for you if we didn't shoot it right. Pete Babcock just scored 38 points and he has the worst shot I've ever seen." He said, "You missed the whole point. When Pete Babcock starts to miss, I don't know how to help him. There is no formula for that. The only reason I wanted you to shoot the ball right is so when you start missing, I can help you. Your elbow's drifting out. You're not bending your knees." And it's the same thing with career visioning. We're not doing this because we want to control the way you're doing things and tell you, you know, how to run your life. We're saying because if you start hiring the wrong people, maybe you didn't go 3 deep. Maybe you didn't do the thought process questions. Maybe you didn't do all of them. I used to skip them until I figured out why they were all important. you know, it's all part of a system, and that's how you have the chance to grow and create new opportunities.
100%. Now, and the KPA that you go through, it just brings down the wall and builds the relationship, because the conversation is all about them.
Right.
And it really gets into you build a deep relationship from the beginning, and it just pulls the walls down, so they're able to be more vulnerable and transparent. And who doesn't love talking about themselves? And it is all about them. The CV process is all about who they are, their story, what they want, what they've accomplished, their track record. It just really peels the onion back.
Well, and Teri, that's counterintuitive to the way we behave, right? Because as salespeople, we want to mirror and match. So Steve says he likes cheeseburgers, and I go, me too. I love cheeseburgers, and don't you love the extra sauce they put on it? That's not what this is. You want to know, Steve likes cheeseburgers. Where does he like to go? It's all Steve, and it's just questions for Steve. Nobody cares if you like cheeseburgers right now. It's all about him, right?
What would you guys say is your favorite part of career visioning? If you were to take a look at the whole, all the different pieces, what is your favorite part to do?
I like validating the KPA. So I think that sets the stage, and it allows them to talk about stories, which also will transition into their track record and the questions, the interview questions. And you get to know them at a deep level, especially when they tell a story and you ask them more, tell me more about that. What caused you to make that decision? What about you, Steve? What's your favorite part?
But that's the most fun part, because we're people. We like people, and so getting to know somebody and you're really getting intimate with them. There's a connection that's made, and the most difficult part for me is to not do what Mark just talked about, and to engage them in conversation where we're sharing common experiences and things like that, and staying objective in that process. I think the other thing is, Teri, you said earlier that teaching people how to think. And at the very beginning, before you even take this, before you take the course, we recommend that you fill out your org chart and you determine, what do I need? And then what is the job description for the people that I need? So I was looking for a lead buyer's agent for my team. And I put an ad into all the regular places, and I got literally hundreds of applications. And so I switched it up, and I changed the ad to be the job description for the lead buyer agent. And that's what I advertised. I only got 2 applicants, and both of them were awesome. So having that, how do we think? I think I like people, and you'll be good on my team, and I can show you how, and get into all of that stuff. But the way you need to think about this is that this is a process, this is a system, and that if you break parts of the process doesn't work well.
Yes, and before CV, I used to sell people when they.
Oh yeah.
Before I came to KW, it was, here's what the job is, and can you do this, and can you do that, and oh my gosh, it's going to be great. And
you get to make all this money, and
and make it about what the job is, when really the CV process is nothing about what they're going to be doing. It's all about them. And it really it peels the onion. I love the part where we not only dig into the KPA, but also the end where we want to see their motivation.
Right.
Because that is your job description as their leader, is, are you able to accomplish? Are they going to be able to accomplish in your world what they want in 5 years from now? So that is your job description. That's how I see it. It's when they tell you, here's my motivation and here's where I want to be in 5 years. That's your job description. Are you able to help them get there?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I'll be the weird one. I actually like reference checks. Believe it or not. Well, and here's why I like them, because the other part is fun, but the reference checks is the part where I really know I've got a person who has a proven track record, right? So I can call Steve and say, Steve, tell me about Bob. What do you think his strengths are? What are his weaknesses? And I think sometimes we look at the references and we just try and finish the questions. But what I really want from Steve is, tell me what his strengths are. And I want him to say he's organized, he's, great with numbers, and he loves people. So I get as many out from Steve as I can. Then I want to go back and say, now, Steve, you said organized. Can you tell me what you mean by organized? Because what Steve thinks is organized might be different from what I think is organized, right? Steve might think it's a sock drawer, and I think it's 1,000 files in a legal department, right? So which is it? He likes to teach and he likes to help people. Does he like to help them one-on-one, or does he like to teach in front of 200 people, or does he do both? Have you ever seen him do it? When he did it, what did he do that was really good? The more I can dig on those things and find things that they've already done and done really well, and I have clear examples. When I take the packet to somebody to black hat it for me, and they say, well, how do you know he'll be able to do that? I say, well, because here's why. Look, he taught here and he did this, and he had 1,000 people and he got 5-star reviews, and he sold 100 widgets, and he did it 3 years in a row, and he was salesman. Whatever it is, that's what allows me to sleep at night and say, I think I've really got somebody who fits into the right spot. So I get the most reward out of a good set of reference checks that validate I've got a really good guy, and all the other work helped and was important.
I appreciate that perspective, because my next question for all of you is going to be, what do you think is the most skipped step and why? And my thought is the most skipped step is the references, but I loved hearing how you explained going deeper than just the baseline of the questions. But what do you think is the most skipped step in CV? And what advice would you give to someone to explain to them not to skip those steps?
Well, I think it is the reference checks from whenever I speak to someone, they're like, oh, I skipped the reference going 3 deep. So what I do is tell the candidate that let these people know I'll be calling them, let them know I'll be asking for additional people to speak to, and tell them it's okay to give me that information. So it makes that process a lot easier. And then it also holds me accountable that if they're telling them I'm calling, I need to do that. So it helps me make those calls.
Yeah. It's the reference checks. It takes time to do the reference checks, and you gotta get, sometimes you have to get appointments with people, and then going 2 and 3 deep is sometimes difficult because the reference doesn't want to give you another one. They want to say nice things about their friend, and you always get family and friends first. And so anyway, that's a difficult part to do. I don't have the paperwork up in front of me for the reference interview, but I know it's question number 6. So if anybody has question number 6 in that up, let me know. But it's a question that's specific to that individual. And so I was hiring for a team leader, and I was going through the references and asking questions. And what I didn't know to ask was, I wanted somebody that had a strong degree of self-confidence as a leader. And I didn't know to ask that question, and so I didn't. And I found out that after a period of time, I actually hired the person, and that person grew in the role. But once we got up to about 80 agents in the office, it was the lack of self-confidence showed up. Ooh. And started creating cliques. And so having that clarity to ask that question, and oh, by the way, had I asked that question in the interview, that question 6 is critical in my opinion. All the other questions people can answer pretty quickly. When I asked question 6 without any specificity of saying, I want to see, I need somebody with strong self-confidence, I actually had one person in the interview that said to me, this person is a very special individual. You need to take good care. And I thought, of course I would. And I didn't know how to interpret that. So I'm going back to the very beginning, getting clear on the traits that you're looking for, getting clear on the description of what needs to happen. And yes, Mark, you do need to hire a new one, right? All that process.
Yeah, well, I love that you
I
knew
can
what
tell
you were.
so many stories about this. I'm sorry.
I love that you knew what you were looking for, Steve. And that question is actually what I'm looking for, Katie, is somebody who really demonstrates a high level of self-confidence. On a scale of 1 to 10,
Yeah,
how self-confident would you say Bob is, right?
right.
And it's the clarity of those questions that is really important. Couple things that over time, because I had trouble getting a hold of references too, but it also tells me if the references aren't calling me back right away, maybe they don't think that much of Bob.
Mm.
I always put Bob's name in there first. So if I text them or call them, I always say, "Hi, Bob Smith asked me to call you for a reference." So I'm putting his name up before mine because they don't know who I am, right? Bob Smith asked me to call you for a reference. Can you get to me today? Can I call you tomorrow at 9 a.m.? Can we discuss this at 9:15 tomorrow? And I try and line them up because I try and do them as close as I can because I'm just, with all the things we have going on, if I have them all kind of in a group, I get the references together and I have a frame of reference on who I'm talking about. But those two things have served me really well. And it's typically putting the person's name up there first and then just being, if they don't, I had two that I called yesterday. One guy called me back last night and the other guy texted me back this morning. If they hadn't, I would be texting, calling them today right away. Because if they don't answer me in the first 24 hours, that's not a good sign for my candidate.
Mhm.
What are your thoughts on delegating to market center leadership or someone on your team to actually do the interview part, the reference check part?
I never do that.
Yeah,
never,
I think
ever do that.
whoever they're reporting to is the person that should do the interview part. I
Yes,
think
I've made that mistake.
yes, because if you're going to be working with them, you need to build that relationship.
Yeah.
So whoever they're reporting to is the person that should be doing the interviewing. And especially, I learned that me hiring an individual that's going to be reporting to someone else is also a big mistake. I think if your staff is hiring someone they're going to have report to them, even though you're running your team, it's real important to have that person build the relationship that they're reporting to. The other part that I think that skipped is the defense part, the defense interview.
Yes.
And one of my team leaders had the defense where they had the candidate defend themselves, and he misinterpreted the defense process. And it was super and it was super interesting. Yeah, you don't have the candidate defend themselves. You're defending your choice as a hire, and you have other people go in and interview and look for the blind spots that maybe you haven't seen. And by this time, you're so attached and you're so sold on that individual. If they get to that process, some people are not willing to have someone else tell them you're making a mistake. So they sometimes skip that process, which is very important. You want to see your blind spots and you want to see them before they're actually hired.
The defense is also, because Teri's 100% on, the defense is also having somebody else hold you accountable to making sure you actually did the whole process. And so you're defending the process that you did to somebody else and saying, this was what I intended to do, or this is what I was supposed to do. This is what I actually did. Mark, how many of those defenses have you done?
Well, a lot, Stephen, it's funny that you're asking that because that's where my mind went, right? So if I'm hiring, if Steve comes to me because he wants to hire Teri as the team leader, my job is to black hat that, right? So I'm asking all the reasons why there might be a blind spot or an issue for Teri. Steve, don't go tell Teri that I don't like her or that I question those things, right? Because then what happens is they think the regional director never wanted me to succeed. No, I want you to succeed. It's my job to be the black hat. I only ask those questions because I'm trying to help you with blind spots. So it is important that as leaders and people who are hiring people in your world, that you keep that piece of it confidential that way, right? Because
and I think
the black hat is just being a black hat.
Yeah, and no one's perfect. And to know that early what the concerns are, you can address them early. I had a team leader that was not confrontational, and we addressed that day one. And so every time he got into a situation where he avoided confrontation, we were able to have a very healthy discussion because we discussed it early before he was even hired. So it's really important to go through that defense process to see your blind spots, and someone else looking at it. Sometimes we just see, all the great things about this candidate, and we can't wait to hire him. And when we discover the blind spots from someone else's perspective, we're able to lean into that and address it early. And addressing things early in the first day or even before you hire them is vital to their success.
If you don't do that, you're risking putting the wrong person or maybe the right person in the wrong job, let's say it that way. And because we're hiring, we have a need, we want somebody, we go through the process and we turn out liking this individual. And then, and that's where the blind spots get created. And so then we hire somebody that's really maybe not equipped for the job, or we don't know how to coach them in the job, like you just said, Teri.
Yeah, you don't want to have that feeling in your stomach 6 weeks into the process. Oh my gosh, I had no idea he would be so disorganized.
Right.
I have no idea she wouldn't like that. You want that to come up and say, I totally expected that. So it's okay. We're just going to talk and coach on that. I knew that was going to happen. That's a thing. But look how good they're over here. And then you're prepared for that. It happens, by the way, no matter how good you are at this, you still have surprises on the backside. But when you're pushing to get all that extra information, it's just because if I don't have a blind spot, I have not done my job. Everybody has shortcomings. You have to have some blind spots in there.
Yeah, and trying to address those 90 days, 6 months in after the hire, sometimes resentment forms because you if you address it early, it's an easy discussion to have. If you wait until they've been there a while, they're not in the same frame of mind from day one. Okay, day one, they're okay, what do I need to do? How do I need to do it? What's the right way, wrong way? And after they've been there a while, they think they figured it out, and hopefully they have. And so you want to address those concerns super early in the relationship.
That's all been so wonderful. We've got about 1 minute left, and I wanted to give you each a few seconds to give us your mic drop recommendation or advice for those folks that are watching and listening to this recording. Steve, I'll start with you.
Okay, number one, you take this many, 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 many times. We're talking about mastery, and you're looking at the mastery of the process to attract talent to your world and to be able to continue to work in talent. And then the part that we haven't talked about is the rest of the leverage series, because it's so important, the 30, 60, 90 part. So it's mastering all of leverage 1, 2, and 3.
I would say there are so many things going on in your world. This is your chance to hire your first round draft pick. Block everything out. You owe it to yourself, even if you're frazzled by a buyer, a seller, or somebody, to take a deep breath. And when you get into that first KPA conversation or any part in the process, make sure you're laser focused on that person and you give them the opportunity to share themselves with you and the insights of themselves, because that's a big opportunity. And sometimes we're going so fast, we don't slow down to embrace all these processes.
Right.
Yeah. And, this is a model, a proven model. Gary built Keller Williams as the largest real estate company in the world through using this model. So master this model will change your life. I haven't mastered it, and it's a work in progress. And I've been working on this since 1998, and I still haven't mastered it. So also teach it, start teaching it, maybe in segments, and you learn best by teaching it. And again, no one succeeds alone.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Steve, Mark, and Teri. We hope you'll join us again next year when we keep doing this CV and Caffeine series. And Katie, thank you for co-hosting with me. And I appreciate everyone's time. And for those of you that stayed with us or enjoying the recording, have a great day.